Have you ever quit something too early only to watch someone else succeed exactly where you gave up? Because in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down a framework that you can use for personal or professional projects to determine when to stick and when to quit. Because there are so many options in today's day and age where it really is worth thinking about which projects deserve your persistence. The book that I'm going to be covering is called The Dip by Seth Godin. It's a classic and timeless book. It has been over a decade since I have read this book. And the reason I'm covering it in this episode is because I love to shine a light on older books that have stood the test of time that I'm still using today. Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's the theme, the idea. Something is still lingering and having an impact on me all these years later. And of course, if Seth Godin, you've read some of his other work, you know that he always has heavy hitters, and The Dip was certainly one of them. And my hope for you is that this saves you years of potentially wasted effort, or this helps demystify that messy middle that can cause people to quit sometimes and feel like this is not for me, I wasn't built for this, when in reality, you're maybe just experiencing what Seth Godin calls the dip. And I know what you're thinking, oh, another podcast where you're going to tell me to never give up or not quit. And this is not really about that, because there are times where it is worth quitting something. And even before those times, it's worth figuring out what to spend your time on in the first place. I'm Misbah, by the way, host of Habit Chess and author of Pod Mahal. And on this show, I like to talk about the strength and conditioning of skills. And so in this episode, let's begin with what is the dip. So Seth Godin defines the dip as this middle place between beginner's luck and real mastery. And so think about when you are working out again for the first time in a long time. You begin to exercise. In the first week, first 4 weeks, what happens? You notice rapid progress, right? Your skin's clear, you have more energy, you're sleeping better, you're beginning to eat a little better. Like, the motivation is high and the progress is pretty quick because, hey, we haven't done this in a while. And so your body's beginning to adapt, and you can feel and see from day 1 to day 30 the actual changes that begin to take place. Then what happens after day 30? Okay, now things begin to slow down a little bit. Your body is getting adjusted to some of those rapid developments and gains that we had. And now as you're getting stronger, it takes more to push you and to challenge you and to get your heart rate up, to challenge your muscles enough to grow and things like that. And so if you are expecting for week 8 or week 12 to feel the way that it did in week 1 through 4, you're going to be disappointed, right? Because the progress slows down. Some days you don't feel like working out. The excitement you had of seeing yourself as a healthy person or as a fit person, that fades a little bit. And instead of like getting up for that 6 a.m. group class that you want to go to and that you're so excited to show up to, okay, inevitably, whether it's a day 30 or day 365, you hit that point of like, whoa, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And not just, oh, this is hard, but it's to the point where it feels nearly impossible. You can't remember, like, why did I even begin this thing? This is so crazy. I didn't expect this. And your mind begins to play tricks on you in this phase, which is where most people give up. And it's understandable why, right? And so the same pattern applies in business, careers, relationships, health, anything that is worth doing, because there comes a point where the casual folks give up. And then that point is bad news for them, but good news for anybody who chooses to persist. That really grueling, tough part. Now, this is really cool because the dip is the exact thing that creates scarcity, because very few people want to go through the fire. And then that scarcity is what creates value. So think about a doctor, for example. If it was very easy to become a doctor, we would have an oversupply of doctors and the market value would plummet. But because becoming a doctor is hard, medical school is long and tough, residency is even tougher, there's all sorts of trials and tribulations that make that process so hard that the people who casually want to become doctors, now this ensures that only the serious and truly committed make it through. And that's exactly what allows their expertise to be valuable because of that difficulty. Comedians are another amazing example, because in the world of stand-up comedy, it's not just about being funny. It's about being able to go out every night and be doing your open mics. And at night when other people want to eat dinner and watch Netflix, like, you're out doing that. There are plenty of people who are very naturally funny, but they don't want to go through the circus of what it takes to actually become a stand-up comedian. The difficulty of bombing, of refining your jokes. When you think of a new joke and it's not hitting right away, most of the time it doesn't, being able to sit through the 5-10 awkward sets that you have to get through to really nail that joke. Most people don't want to do that. They don't want to feel the embarrassment and the fear of bombing. Now, here's where Seth's message gets really interesting, because it's not just about pushing through the dip all the time. It is actually about knowing when to quit. And that takes wisdom, right? Because traditionally, the messaging around the word quitting is just don't do it. Put your head down and keep going. And winners quit all the time. It's just that they make very strategic decisions around what to quit, what to say no to. And this is exactly the thing that frees them up to be able to channel their persistence into something that the dip is actually worth sustaining. This part is hard because you have to train this judgment over time, I've found, to be able to be really honest and go, okay, is this a dip or is this what Seth Godin calls a cul-de-sac or a cliff? Because the first one is the dip. This is a setback. It's temporary. I'll push through it and eventually things will get better. Then you've got the cul-de-sac, which is kind of a dead end. You're working and working, but nothing's really happening. Nothing's really improving, and eventually is going to lead to failure. The cliff is essentially where things feel good and look good now, but I know and I can see that this is leading towards failure. The idea is if there's the dip, you want to be able to push through that. But what you want to quit is a cul-de-sac or a cliff, because those things are the things where if you trick yourself into being like, no, I just got to push through, you end up not only just fighting against yourself and probably not achieving your potential in that thing, but what happens is this can go on for years and years. It's harder and harder to quit because of what Seth Godin calls sunk costs, right? Oh, I've already put in 10 years into this thing. Now it's been 14 years and you just can't imagine yourself quitting. So it's very important to identify the right things to quit early and have the courage to do it, especially if it is in service of something bigger. For me, using the comedy example, I had been doing stand-up comedy for 3 years. In year 4, that was the year I started a business in year 4. And so I was putting a lot of attention, energy into that. And I was now in this conflicted place where like going out every night, doing 3-4 open mics, and just the hours that you're putting in to develop your craft in this thing, it was like, okay, I can keep doing this. But in my mind, deep down, I knew like what I wanted more was the successful business. I did love stand-up. I loved who I was becoming through it, all that stuff. But it was at a point where things were really like beginning to deteriorate, right? I have to pick one of these if I want to see the kind of success that I'm envisioning. Because if I don't, then what's happening, I could just feel it in year 4. And as I kept doing it for another full year, I noticed it. It was like this push and pull between not putting in full effort into some of my stand-up because my mind was on my business. It took a lot in me to be like, okay, this is not for me anymore, or this is not for me right now. And this is what it is in service for. Because guess what? When you quit things, you will be a failure in that thing. So you have to go through, that's the tough part, like me having to go through this ego death of like, whoa, I'm not a comedian anymore. And I had invested in that identity for so many years where it was like, whoa, what am I? And so I've just found that it's definitely worth being a failure by one definition in one arena that, you know, is not serving you anymore, if it allows you to be a winner in another area that is a game you actually want to play. And of course, years later, that proved to be the best decision. And guess what? I had really thought through the dip when I started stand-up, all the tough things that you encounter and experience. I really submitted myself to the craft and was like, lay it all on me. I'm here to experience all of it. But of course, right, at year 3, there was a competing vision, right? There was something else I wanted to build, something else that truly, if I had continued to continue on and not quit stand up, I would not have any of what I do with my business today. It just wouldn't be possible for me because of the energy, the time, the attention, everything that is the emotional investment that's going into this thing. There just would not have been the kind of space to do it the way that I wanted. And it wasn't like that was just a guess, right? I actually tried it. I spent a whole year trying to do both and juggling both and coming to this conclusion. And so I say this to share that it can be messy, right? It sounds very easy. Oh, if it's a dip, keep going. If it's not, quit. And it feels like you can't just do it like with the snap of a finger, right? There's this mental process that you go through where if you've invested a lot into this project, this identity, it hurts a little bit. But again, if you know what it is in service towards, it hurts a little less. So what I love about the dip is that it shows us two things: that being able to beat your competitors in a lot of ways is about the soft skills. It's not the hard skills, because you're all developing the hard skills, right? All the comedians are going on stage and writing. All of the doctors are going to the same classes and practicing on people and all that stuff. I call it, in comedy, when I would talk to mentors, I would ask them, what are good work habits off stage? And the reason I asked that was because the on-stage stuff is what everybody's doing, right? But the off-stage stuff, that is what makes a difference. It's just like the gym. Yes, the hour that you spend in the gym is going to make an impact, but it is, what are you doing in the other 23 hours that is either hurting or helping that 1 hour that you invested? And sometimes when you look at it through that lens, like, oh, what are offstage work habits for this particular project, you begin to kind of ask yourself in a more approachable way, oh, what are the things that could go wrong? Because when you say it like that, your brain might not want to even answer it. But when you say, what are some good offstage work habits? Those things, whatever they are, right? For a comedian, it is writing. Writing is very important amongst a couple other things. But if you figure out what those things are, those are all variables. Those are all failure points for other people as well. And so you can now begin to master some of these things ahead of time before the dip even comes. So hey, when it hits you with full force, I at least know that this is the dip, and it's not just this bad cloud that is over me, or this is fate and how it was meant to be. Like, it can make you feel really calm and secure in the midst of a storm, which allows you to continue to operate better. And there will be times where you won't be calm through the storm, but when you even are aware of what the dip is, I find it easier to be able to handle that. It's kind of like when people hundreds and hundreds of years ago had a cold. When you had a cold, you're, oh my gosh, what's going on? Am I going to die? Like, nobody had information on what it was. And then over time, you figure out, oh, okay, it's a cold. This is what's happening. I'm going to feel like this maybe for a day, 2 days, 3 days. Here are some things I can take to maybe get through this a little bit better. Here's maybe why this happened, right? Why I got a cold. So now when you get a cold, it's not giving us the same fight or flight feeling that's like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. It's giving us this feeling of like, oh, I got a cold. This is annoying. Okay, what can I do? And so you're approaching it with a level-headedness, even when you feel really terrible, because a cold isn't fun, right? And so I hope this was helpful. Make sure to check out the links in the description below. This was super fun. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you on the next one.